Impact of deficit financing in an economy. In an economy. Now, if we assume that all the borrowing, so right, for example, currently our borrowing is, if we assume that all the borrowing, that is 17.8 lakh crore, suppose we take from only one source, and that one source is public. So ultimately there I mentioned that banks and people like you, me, that include public. So ultimately what I want to say, that we mostly, whatever money we get, we used to spend some of the money, and some of the money we used to save in the banks. Okay, so either we give our money to the banks as a savings, or we can directly give our savings to the government. So ultimately, when I am saying public, it means government is dependent on savings. Savings in an economy. And you know that savings are limited. And you know that savings are limited in nature. Okay, so when I am saying savings are limited in nature, it means we don't have unlimited savings. Clear? Clear? Okay. Now one student is asking, sir, as we see India has surge in borrowing in the budget from last year and also increasing, so India would fall under debt trap, as in 2040 we will face problem. Okay. So the question has written, first of all it is mains question, and number two, whatever you have written, okay, whatever you have written this doubt, so if you see the government number, they are reducing their borrowings. That is why government is trying to reduce its borrowings. Clear? So you just check the numbers, okay, then we'll talk about that. Okay, no doubt I have given you trends in fiscal deficit, there I'll talk about this thing. Okay, so you'll get the answer for this. So wait for another 1 hour, you'll get the answer in next 1 hour. Okay, so borrowings are limited in nature. Oh, sorry, savings are limited in nature. So ultimately for this limited savings, okay, for this limited savings, okay, you can say on one side government of India is there, and on other side private sector is also there. So if suppose all the savings are taken by, or majority of the savings, limited savings are taken by government of India, it means private sector is left with very less savings, and this situation is known as, crowding out effect. So again I am repeating it, savings are limited in nature, and if government of India takes majority of the saving and private sector is left with very less savings, okay, so this situation is called as, or known as, crowding out effect. Clear? I hope it is clear to you. Please tell me in comment section, yes or no. So this situation is called as crowding out effect. Now what will be the further consequences of crowding out effect? That private sector are left with very less savings. So it means when less savings are left for the private sector, but all private sector are looking for that. So ultimately banks will increase the interest rate. Okay, so you can say interest rate will increase, and whenever interest rate of the banks will increase, it means most of the private companies will delay their investment. Okay, so they will prefer to take loan in the future, means in the future when again banks have enough savings with them, so then banks will again reduce the interest rate. So ultimately they will prefer to take loans in the future, it means they will delay the investment, and when investment will be delayed, no doubt it will have impact on GDP. Okay, so our GDP will reduce. Okay, our GDP will reduce. Clear? Is it clear to you? Now you understood what is crowding out effect and what will be the further consequences. Okay. So ultimately, if limited savings are taken by the government of India, okay, if majority of limited savings are taken by the government of India, that will lead to crowding out effect, and we have further consequences of this in this way. Clear? So this is called crowding out effect. Clear? Okay, very good. Now moving further. Now if suppose government of India takes all the borrowing that is through RBI printing. RBI printing, or you can say I am talking about monetized deficit. Monetized deficit. Now this will be responsible for increasing money supply in an economy. And whenever money supply increase, the consequences will be high inflation. The consequences will be high inflation. Clear? So ultimately increase in money supply. Clear? It will be responsible for increase in money supply. Okay. Now if government takes all the borrowing, from foreign government, okay, now the immediate impact will be that country has to compromise on sovereignty. Clear? Country has to compromise on sovereignty. So you can take a borrowing from your friend, then you can understand that now you have to depend on the mercy of your friend. Okay. So country has to compromise on the sovereignty. So this is the immediate impact. No doubt it has another impact also, like it will impact country's exchange rate also. Okay, exchange rate also, and exchange rate further has impact on inflation. So with this, how it is impacting the exchange rate and how it will impact inflation, we'll talk about in balance of payment. But for a time being, remember that these are the impact from foreign government, if you take money from the foreign government. Now if money is taken from foreign institution such as IMF, World Bank, etc. So they will give you money only on conditions. So we call them conditionality. Okay. So they will give you money only on conditions, and we call that conditionality. Clear? So this is called as Washington Consensus. So for example, in 1991 we have taken borrowing from IMF. So IMF has given us money only on certain conditions, that is known as Washington Consensus. Okay, that is known as what? Washington Consensus. Clear? So this is what you have to remember. And also whenever you are taking money either from the foreign government or foreign institution, no doubt in both the cases money is coming from outside. Okay, and this outside money is responsible for you can say impact the exchange rate. In both the cases, whenever foreign currency is coming into or entering into our country, this is going to impact the exchange rate. Clear? This is going to impact the exchange rate. Clear? So this is what you have to understood. Clear? So I hope this is clear to you, because sometime UPSC asks you the impact of deficit financing. Okay, sometime One student is asking, sir, वॉशिंगटन और बेजिंग कंसेंसस में, बेटा बेजिंग कंसेंसस हम करेंगे जब इंटरनेशनल बैलेंस ऑफ पेमेंट करेंगे. आई एम जस्ट गिवन यू वन एग्जांपल हियर, सो आई डोंट वांट टू डेविएट फ्रॉम द टॉपिक. Clear? So sometime UPSC will ask you the impact of deficit financing. So if you see, impact of deficit financing is crowding out effect. Okay. So if suppose UPSC asks you the impact of deficit financing. Okay, if UPSC asks you impact of deficit financing, so you have to tell that impact of deficit financing can be crowding out effect. So you know what is crowding out effect, that limited savings are taken by the government, which will have further consequences in terms of increase in interest rate, which will further, you can say, responsible for delay in investment by private sector, and ultimately you can say reduction in GDP, which we also donate as slowdown. Okay, which we also donate as slowdown. Second, if you see, if we'll go for printing of currency, so in that case, what is the impact is that there will be high inflation due to increase in money supply. Okay, and if you have understood this thing, so this is the only reason that we have banned printing of currency. Okay, this is the only reason that printing of currency for borrowing is banned. So you can say monetized deficit is banned because it is responsible for high inflation. Okay, so there is a degree of inflation. I am not saying moderate level of inflation, I am talking about high level of inflation. Okay, which is, you can say, a situation of runaway or hyperinflation. We'll talk about that thing in inflation chapter. Third, when you talk about impact of deficit financing, so as I told you that it will compromise on the sovereignty of the country. And fourth, as I told you, that it is responsible for, you can say, foreign organization will give you money only on conditions, that is conditionality. And the fifth is that whenever you take money from foreign government or foreign institution, it is going to impact the exchange rate. Okay, it is going to impact exchange rate. Clear? I hope it is clear to everyone. Okay, so if impact of deficit financing will come, so you have complete answer with you. Okay, so any of the option will be there, that will be your correct, or you can say that option you have to select. Clear? So this is what impact of deficit financing, or you can say sources of or ways of deficit financing, you must know. Clear? So you can expect a question on this also in your prelims. Okay, now if you see, in reality, as I told you, that this printing of currency is banned by the government, or you can say banned by the parliament. Okay, why? Because you now know the reason. So ultimately we are left with only three options, that is from the public, foreign government and foreign institutions.